All right, so let's talk about Biden's
Wait, hold on,
recent.
hold on. We have to address the fact that we have a new set. Look at this shit. Y'all don't look at it. We look like Oprah and Gail. Come on now. Okay, go
Oprah
ahead.
and Gail.
Go
I
ahead.
hope it's nice. I can't see it right now.
Oh
Yeah, I
man,
gotta show you
wait till
afterwards. I
you
said I'll show
check
you
it out, my
afterwards.
boy.
I
Yeah,
actually
I'm gonna
want to
have to see
probably
it after the production.
set up straight up. I also need to talk to you about how I'm edited too. I don't know if I want to put your head like right here and just have it like this, or if I want to keep it with the overlay.
I
Like
need to be able to slap.
Put me behind the presidential stand, like the way Biden is up on our little video feed right here.
this guy on
Just
the
in
Oh
the
left or
my
right.
background.
god. The way Biden's head is, I don't even think that's his body. Anyway,
All right, so
Futurama.
Biden had a special report updates Americans battle with COVID-19, and the entire address was, as the clip shows here, 31. Well, I think this is a part of ABC, so I take out the ABC little blah blah blah. I think it was around like 20 odd minutes, and he pretty much mandated vaccines for employees. What is it? 100 employees or more.
Yeah, if you have a
And
business or a company with
100
100 people
employees.
or more, you either have to take weekly tests or you have to go get vaccinated.
then the company's correct. They get fined. What was it? 10,000 or something like that odd dollars per incident.
Yeah, they get fined if they have a employee who's not abiding by the regulations, and they also are required to offer paid time off for them to go get vaccinated should they
So they
choose.
do offer them pay time off to go get the vaccine only, not for the testing.
The testing, I'm pretty sure the companies have to provide, but testing right now is like
I would assume.
super expedient. Like now they have like at home tests and stuff like that, and companies have been sending them out for a while. Also, too, you can like walk in and just like have that little thing shoved up your nose, and they'll have a test within like 10 minutes, tell
It's a
you if you're
little thing.
positive or negative. Now it's a little thing. It's not the big one like it used to be when it first happened and people were going to drive-throughs. That thing they would shove all the way and basically touch your brain and then pull it out. Like now it's just like it goes up like partially through the nostril.
So what you're saying is, at the beginning, there was a way that was a little less pleasant, and over time, they've gotten
Yeah, they've
better
made it
with
more
it.
pleasant. Yeah,
They've
pretty
made it
much.
more pleasant with
I
time.
guess so.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
and
I
it
would
doesn't
assume
take like
and
With
hope they
weeks
would
for
do
time,
that.
with time. Okay,
Yeah,
cool,
It doesn't take like weeks for it to
we're
come
in
back.
agreement,
Like they can
John.
basically like
cool.
give it to you in like 5-10 minutes.
And my reaction when I saw this was my joke I sent to our little group chat I have was, "Smells like dictatorship."
Yeah, you freaked out, dude.
Yeah, this is like I said to you, I just want consistency. Like I can only imagine if Trump says something. Like, first off, I don't agree with this at all. I don't think Trump would say something like this. But if Trump said something like this to this degree, this use of the government for something he wanted, there'd be outrage. Because I'm sorry, this is not the government's for, and this is not, our government can't do this. Like, that's why I kind of want to get down to a conspiracy topic, which was, what was the actual goal of him saying this? Because he can't do this. Like, he literally, I'm pretty sure he can't do this. I'm not a lawyer, like, disclosed, but from the things I've heard, he can't do this. He's going to be fought. He's obviously going to lose, depending how long the fight goes, but that's what I've heard. I could be wrong. So my curious question is, was this an attempt to divert the topic from Afghanistan to this? Because we're not
Ooh,
talking about Afghanistan anymore.
okay.
I
The
hadn't thought
entire
about that, but I don't think that's what it is. I think it's the fact that all the hospitals are filling up with 25% of our population.
so
Like that's a huge deal, man. Like I'm gonna be honest with you. I have a lot of friends that are in the medical business, and like I have a friend who removes tumors, and he hasn't been able to remove tumors in his city because all the ICU beds are taken up by unvaccinated patients. He's having to fly out to like unpopulated cities with low-end hospitals and hope that they can transport these tumor patients or these cancer patients to that if they're even able, like if they're in a late stage, they can't make the trip. But since they can't go into their own city because all the ICU beds are taken up by unvaccinated people with COVID, like they can't operate because there's nowhere for that person to recover.
see
So
my
it's really
issue with that.
dangerous because a
There's
lot of
been
people.
my
It's really dangerous because
but
there's a
there's
lot
been
of people that are already
misreporting on the
vaccinated.
hospitals. Okay, so I'm gonna attack the hospitalization part because I've heard different things when it comes to hospitalizations. I've heard what you're hearing, and I've heard that's all BS. So I brought up the COVID numbers right here. I'm sorry, the CDC numbers right here. So it says on the CDC that they've had right here total new admissions, which is close to 3 million, right? And they have, what does it say right here? 12.5 a day, 12.500 a day, 7-day average.
Yeah.
My issue with this, though, is if you then come over here for number of state beds, and I forgot the exact number, but it was about 900,000, almost 1 million beds right now in the entirety of America. Then I brought up, where is it? I think it's this first one right here. The number of actual hospitalizations with COVID. Let it refresh.
Sounds like I need to get into the bed making business.
This doesn't add up to 3 billion. And in this video over here, they said right here also 101 hospitalizations. It's not doing there, but 101 right there is not pausing.
Never seen it.
There you go. Boom. So my question is hospitalizations really an issue? Or is this number right here the accurate number? Because it seems like what's going on here is based on the daily, they're not, and this is an actual breakdown total of hospitalizations for COVID. And obviously what we're seeing, I think I had the number here where was it? Which each, yes, these are the number of beds per state. So I'm assuming then, depending on the state, they're going to get more hospitalizations because obviously California is a hot spot. Florida, which makes sense. New York and Texas. So the lowest between the big ones is, what is that, 58, 57?
Well, that's what my friend was
56.
talking about. So he was saying, like, in big states with big cities, like, it's really difficult to have these kinds of surgeries. Like, he was even telling me, he's like, in order to, he would take a Texas patient and they would fly out to Mississippi for him to go get the surgery there. And then that's the hard issue where he was just like, dude, like,
for a surgery?
Yeah, he's like, normally this person would just get a surgery in their state, in their city, when they would book it and stuff like that. But because of the way that the hospitals are being filled up by people who have COVID, these people, like, sometimes they're vaccinated, they still need surgeries that are going to affect them in the long term, like removing a tumor. Like, they're not going to die maybe this week, but it's only a matter of time before eventually it, takes them. And so they have to prepare, like, trips out into other regions with low populations so that they can do the surgeries there where there's more likely to have a bed.
So my question that I have is, people's problem is that the people in the ICU that are taking up the beds, it's preventative if they had gotten the vaccine. The symptoms wouldn't have caused them to be in the ICU is the premise, I guess, that's going on.
The science says you have like a 17 times or 17, like a multiple of 17 or something like that to be less likely to actually get hospitalized.
I'll even do this with you guys. During this whole conversation, I'm not going to argue any facts that actually show the vaccine is more helpful. I won't argue against any of those things.
It has shown that there's been, like Doc's right, there's been a
percent. I won't argue any of those things.
Percent increase,
okay.
Yeah.
So the moral question is, because these people are not getting vaccinated, should they not be either prioritized, or what they're seeing, them being unvaccinated and them being there for that reason is seen as immoral almost?
So that is the moral issue.
And hold on. Then my question is, what if and this is just, there's a multitude of reasons somebody could be in the hospital, right? But what if I'm one of these cancer patients that needs the surgery, correct? And the ICU is full. Or it's not full. It doesn't matter. What if I got a spot? Oh, God forbid, I'll put it on somebody else. What if somebody else has a spot, right? And smoking is what caused them to have the lung cancer. Could the smoking not have been seen as preventative? Like, if they didn't smoke, isn't it possible that chances of getting lung cancer might have been lessened? So my question is, with America, since we always do this, there's no concept that we do not take to the max. And I don't mean like even the implication or applying it. I mean the actual idea itself. So with that being said, when do we stop checking what variables the person played into making themselves sick? So, cause you get what I'm saying? Because
I do. My key point from it is I've just kind of seen reports where doctors are like being put into the position where they have to weigh out the variables, because you have somebody who just got a gunshot, you have no ICU beds, you have a 60-year-old person or a 70-year-old person dying from COVID who refused to get vaccinated, you have a 20-year-old bleeding out to death. What do you do? Do you save the 20-year-old and let him live his life, even though you can save it, but you're gonna throw out the old man, or do you let the old man see if he can beat the virus and let the 20-year-old bleed out?
I guess my argument isn't even the picking of it. The argument is who's in the bed. The actual question is, do you remove people from beds? Because
That's where it's kind of starting to get to in major cities, and that's actually one of the reasons why people are pressing that, like, if you live in a high populated area or you deal with high populations, or even like these businesses where you have 100 more employees, you probably should get vaccinated, because in that area you're stressing the medical system more than anywhere else. And I know Jimmy Kimmel kind of made a really like obscene joke about it, where he was just like, "Yo, I'm taking the fucking heart attack patient who got vaccinated and let the other person die." But
let me actually look that.
Even though the joke is really rude, like there is some kind of merit to that decision, because there are actual doctors making that call.
So then my question now comes to reasons for not being vaccinated. Would that come into the scope of things when the doctor has to make their decision? Do we now have to list why we didn't get vaccinated?
I don't know which.
It depends on the doctor's practice, because I've seen reports of doctors who are turning away people that are sick with COVID that haven't gotten vaccinated.
Is that, see? So like morally, where do we stop? When does our, because I'm not okay with it. When does our pursuit of good, when does it become tainted? And when does it become more about the cause than the actual conclusion of everything?
Well, it depends on which way you.
Okay, so for example, I'll just speak for example me. Okay, I'm African. I'm of African descent. Okay, and I can't speak for all Africans. I can't speak for all African Americans, like, second generation or whatever it is. But Africans in general, I believe, aren't so keen on vaccines. Now, if you do your history or you look at your research, you'll know that a lot of stuff has been tested on the continent of Africa, and under the guise of vaccine. And even when this first broke out, you had reporters on French television talking to scientists, and the scientists are talking about testing the vaccines in Africa first. So me personally, anytime I hear the word vaccine or shot or whatever, it's not that I'm against it. I literally feel like I should be able to wait if I choose to wait to make my decision. I should be able to wait and see a year and a half of the vaccine or 2 years of the vaccine, see if there are any adverse effects. I should be able to wait. And I understand the risk of me ending up in the hospital or in the ICU or whatever and taking up a bed. But then if you're a life insurance agent, right, or you're selling a policy, how high or low do you scale that versus the other life decisions that you're asking the person if they're making? Do you smoke every day? Do you exercise? Do you take vitamins? Do you have high blood pressure in your family? If you know you have high blood pressure in your family, are you eating salty foods? Like, there are a lot of factors that people actually know but still indulge in. You have people who have diabetes in their family, or they know they do, but still drink nothing but soda, still drink nothing but sugar. There's so many things. And so because this thing is, I guess, the thing now, when morally does our cause become tainted by pursuing it this way? Because there is a point where this way is immoral. And so my question is it when you're getting people up out of beds? Or is it when, y'all know I sit in the middle about a lot of this shit, right? Like, even when it comes to like the politics of things, right? So on one side, you have people who aren't these two things have been equated. It's not my example, but on one side you have people who are anti pro-life, right? Pro-life, anti-abortion, right? And then
pro-choice.
Pro-life, pro-choice, sorry. And then you'll have those people telling liberal people that, you're killing. No matter what the number is, one is too much. You're killing by having abortions. And the liberal people's response would be what? Don't tell me what to do with my body.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you could even just talk about mask instead of the vaccine. Now you have the actual opposite side not wanting to, they're seen as the conservative people are seen as the ones who don't want to, they're anti-vax or anti-mask, which I hate that fucking verbiage, but they're seen as that. That's how they're labeled, right? And they're telling you, you don't get to tell me what to do with my body. So it's wild that these two things could coexist and there be no actual anything to anybody to say, oh, well, there's a point here where we're missing it.
They're not the same, but the problem is we're viewing it
I
as
get
the
what
same.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. They are not the same to me as well. I agree with that. But on paper, no matter the number, if the number one is too much life lost, they both can be applied to the situation in some way.
No.
Yeah, and so if you sincerely believe one is too much, why does your cause become more valuable than my cause? And I question not both because I understand, but I question the conversation and if it's even genuine, if the two sides are literally arguing over the same thing but using it just to oppress each other in a weird way. So that's why when it comes to this...
To me, it comes down to the question of integrity. Like, is it more integral that you don't get vaccinated, or is it more integral that you do get vaccinated? Because in my opinion, the integrity lies in, like, if I get vaccinated, I'm not taking up a bed, or I'm going back into society and doing my thing, and I don't have to really worry about that. The benefit on my end is that I probably won't get sick, and it's scary because I don't know what the hell's going to happen to me in the few years from it. So, but I did it. Originally, I did it too because I also thought it wouldn't spread from me. So my intention was that it was going to help other people and it was going to save me as well. It is a risk. Like, you're totally right, and I totally respect that people are not willing to take that risk, and that's why there's the option of taking the weekly tests that's going on with this mandate. And just like you're asking, when we're seeing that 25% in major cities is actually killing healthy people, you have to question the integrity of your decision. Is
it actually killing healthy people, or is that just...
you're clogging up a medical system that doesn't need to be clogged.
Fair, I'm not...
So
but is it actually resulting in people dying from it, though? That's my issue with this. Like, the numbers aren't consistent, and two, it seems like it's being over-dramatized. I would assume it does, man.
Like, literally, like I told you,
I would assume it does, but is it? That's my thing. Is it, though? I can understand the assumption. I'm not trying to take that away. My only question is it?
Because I mean, what do you want? Do you want to see somebody die in front of you so you can be like, oh, yeah, you're right?
Well, not as that dramatic. I just want to know the exact numbers so I can assess this properly.
Because I don't want to.
Because this measure, this mandate is very draconian. Like,
dude, he's not even asking you to take it. He's just he's like, here are the options. Take one or two. You have to, if you're going to work into a company.
So,
if you're going to work in a company with 100 or more people, then here you go. Like, there's a lot of conditions.
I'm going to affect your livelihood and ability to provide for yourself to take this vaccine. If you don't take this vaccine, most
people that want to do like small businesses with companies of 20 to 30 people, like, they don't have to care about this. You know what I mean? In a weird way, it almost plays into the extreme conservatism of it, where it's just like, okay, cool. Like, in major cities where there's companies all over the place that have 100 or more people, you have to think of the major population, and so you have to assess it. In like regional areas or rural areas where the companies are much smaller, small mom and pop shops, like, who cares? Like, you guys can do whatever you want. So you don't have to go by these rules and stuff like that. So but if you're going to go into a corporation, it's more likely that you have to abide by these rules. It's the same thing with school. You have to take vaccines when you go to school. You have to get the meningitis shot just to go to college.
Does that integrity question?
Hold on, I'm going to address that real quick. I really don't like that argument because this is not the meningitis vaccine. This vaccine has been around for almost a year now. There have been no solid studies, no solid data on this vaccine. Biden mentioned in the speech that he is talking about boosters. There are continuations to this vaccine.
That's what the flu does.
But my problem is it's only been around for a year, and this is a different vaccine that affects you through the mRNA process.
So 75% of our population doesn't count as a test subject.
They are? What do you mean?
75% of our population has already received the vaccine. There's only 25% that hasn't. 75% does not count as a test subject, and an FDA approval also does not count as a firm approval. The FDA takes fucking forever to approve shit. Vitamin shop stuff aren't even approved. The vaccine got approved, dude.
Okay, so my question, remember earlier when I was like...
But we don't have the data on the continuation, like...
Remember earlier when my question to you, Doc, was, so at first they were putting that long-ass shit up your nose, right, to test, and it got a little bit more efficient or it got a little bit better as time went along, right? So if I wanted to wait until I was comfortable, why does the integrity part only... Why is the question of integrity only to a COVID person, a person who contracted COVID or is refusing to get vaccinated, as opposed to a person who is smoking and gets lung cancer? Does that morality track is my question. And if so, then that means what you're talking about is a revamping of how we even intake.
There's already things that address that integral issue, though. You have DARE. You have tons of anti-smoke propaganda that we put out. You have tons
I'm
of
not talking about the propaganda. I'm talking about you saying the onus, the responsibility. That's what you're talking about when you're talking about integrity is on the unvaccinated individual to do it so that they can almost help the community. And I'm saying. And they're helping the community by not taking up a bed, which is essentially what we're talking about here. So I'm sticking to, like, I haven't disagreed or agreed with anything so far. I'm just saying if the bed is the issue, make the main thing the main thing. We're talking about beds, okay? So now if we're talking about beds and space enough to house and, these individuals, why does the COVID patient, the unvaccinated COVID patient, immoral decision, air quotes, to get them in the bed, is it different from the person who smoked or even the gunshot victim who was in maybe he was the person shooting somebody and the police shot him? So like why is that sin worse than the other is my question.
I don't think it's necessarily like an issue to solve. More so I'm just thinking of the doctor, dude, because the doctor actually has to make that call. And he has to go like, okay, whose life was better? Like, is he going to really pass judgment on somebody's life? And not only that, there's only so many doctors in the country. And eventually, like, that shit wears them out. Like, they get PTSD. They're like, I had to let somebody die so I could save somebody else in this hard decision. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, that shit wears out people. And there's only so many of them.
My only issue is I don't see why we have to mandate this. Like, government, like, I don't care what you think about the vaccine. At the end of the day, I feel like we're pulling hairs at this point.
I'm talking about the bed.
Issue is,
I'm
for me at
talking
least,
about the bed.
I get you, but I feel like we're pulling hairs because the whole issue, at least for me, is just the mandating part.
Yeah, I don't agree with the mandate.
Like that, like, whatever you want to do about the vaccine. You want to get vaccinated? Sure. I personally don't want to get vaccinated. I haven't been vaccinated. I have no intention of getting vaccinated. Maybe, like John said, down the road after some more data and studies have come out about the vaccinated and its long-term effects, maybe. As of right now, for me, I'm uncomfortable with it. Nope, don't feel good about it. But the topic is he is mandating companies with 100+ employees to get vaccinated, or the alternative is you have to then pay your employees, obviously the time out of office, to go get tested. You have to facilitate that.
In America.
Are they going to, if the companies aren't paying that out of pocket, is the government then going to give them a stipend for that? Now it's coming out of our taxpayer money. That's my problem. Government shouldn't be doing this.
In America, when has this marketing strategy ever worked?
Hold on, let John.
To be forceful. When has this ever worked in any type of anything in America, just being forceful? There are people who just not getting a vaccination just because. Honestly speaking, just because. Because fuck you. That's why. If you ask them, they're going to say, because fuck you. That's why. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I just don't agree with the way that we're going about it. We're all of a sudden pretending that we've been kumbaya this whole time, when actually the people who are saying they don't want to get vaccinated are exercising the American part of being American. Like that's literally, despite anything what anybody said, that's the part of it. Mean the American? Like the American is like, I can stand on my own conviction. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I can, and you can't force me, as government can't force me to do anything. And so there are some people who are just fighting the fight because it's, my government shouldn't be encroaching, or it shouldn't be on, it shouldn't be like this. And so it's just, I don't know. I don't agree with this strategy. I'm not vaccinated for different reasons. Like I said, I'm not against getting a vaccine. I plan on getting vaccinated, to be honest with you. It's just not soon, and especially not with this shit going on. Like, fuck you. No.
All right, Doc, what do you get?
I kind of see the opposite. Like, sometimes I see, like, people are too, I don't know, I guess to put it bluntly, like, people are just too ignorant sometimes to see the macro. And so sometimes rules like this, like your dad, you know, when you're in a family, he sets rules down. Like, I don't see it any different from a society also doing the same thing in the same way that like your parents would set down like a ground rule, and not necessarily something to like to abuse you. I mean, don't get me wrong, there is the fear of abuse, and so I understand why people are speculant about, you know, government and stuff like that, and that's a very real thing. And actually I saw like a thing today that was like ideology versus integrity. So to me, like, I kind of look at this and I'm like, all right, is this ideology or is this integrity? When I went into it, I put my integrity in front of it, and so I don't regret my decision at all.
I think it's bleeding into ideology, and that's why I was talking about the bet.
See, I see the opposite. I feel like the you can't make me because you're the government is bleeding into ideology.
Oh, I agree with that too.
To integrity.
I agree with that too.
The thing about it is like, that's why when I saw this. For one, I've already been vaccinated, so I didn't care, and I've already seen major corporations already doing this even before the government was doing it.
Which is fine. I'm okay with that.
Like a lot of companies are putting people down as like either vaccinated or unvaccinated, so they can get testing, so they can go back to like living where they were in high populated areas, and the vaccinated can basically walk free, and then the people who choose not to be vaccinated because of religious or personal reasons, they just go through the testing process and they just get that thing shoved up their nose.
And it's
I'm pretty sure though they also make them sign up a contract that says if they get COVID at work and die, it's not the company's
liable.
fault. Yeah, because that's a key issue. I think most companies are really the most afraid of. Because it's so easy to be like, I got COVID. I knew people even when the fucking outbreak was happening that they were just like, dude, if I get it here, I'm gonna make so much money. I'm gonna sue the fuck out of them. And I was just like, oh shit, okay. Because, I mean, if you work in an office, you're in a box with people, man. Like, so I think that's kind of like the core issue. And so when he did it, I was just like, I already saw this coming. Like, it's just that 25% in major cities is really, really paying a toll. And like I said, I didn't think about it too much more after the mandate happened, because I literally wrote it off as like, yep, that was going to happen. But then I met up with my friend, and he was moderately against it. He didn't really want to get it, and then he finally did, just because he was just like, fuck it, like, I might as well. But he even told me, he's like, dude, the moment it became real for me was when he started seeing patients that he had been caring for losing opportunities like life-saving treatments and stuff like that because there was just no space for them. And like dealing with families of him being like, I'm sorry, this is happening. And it's just frustrating seeing people that are unwilling to take a treatment for other to be put forward for people that are begging for a treatment.
Based off the numbers, then why are COVID patients getting priority then to ICU beds to cause things like this? Because if you also look at the numbers, people really aren't dying from this like that. It's still hovering around 2%. So is then the conversation really mandating, or is it really lowering the severity of the COVID or the priority of COVID patients? The odds of you dying from this are low. So we're going to set you over here then on watch, or however it works in hospitals.
So I think there's two options from that. Like, maybe Okay, so to remedy like what you're saying, they could, one, not let them into ICU beds and just see how they make do at home, or two, the ICU beds are actually what's keeping these people alive and probably keeping them from dying.
Is it then COVID, or is it then what is the word? COVID, different something else, and they got COVID along with it, and because they got COVID, it jumped them up. Like I'm just trying to say,
The
it's probably
government
the
actually
weight
wanted
of
to solve
COVID
it.
right
They
now.
build more hospitals, honestly speaking.
I mean, the only way we would be able to tell for sure is to just stop admitting COVID patients and see what happens. But is that ethical?
I understand but I just don't think the
But then you're
government should be
putting
involved.
COVID on the. That's why my question still remains. Like, is COVID more important? Is an unvaccinated COVID patient more important than any other unethical way somebody else got into the hospital? Because then if not,
I mean, you're making a man play God, dude.
but that's the conversation. I mean, we are at that point. We are. If you're forcing anybody to do anything, in that, like, you have to take what comes with it. And the full conversation is, we're talking about beds here. In my belief, I believe the government's supposed to be the janitor and the security of
I agree
the
that to a
country.
degree. Yeah.
So when I say that, I say, oh, these people, we have all these military bases, right? We have so much money for military shit, yet somehow, some way, America is really struggling in, as one of the most civilized civilizations with housing people in hospitals. And now we're talking about beds. Like, the conversation here we're really talking about is beds and rooms and space. And so, as the government should, use some money, build hospitals instead. Instead of all these stimulus packages, you're sending money to other countries, build a couple more hospitals. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not putting the actual.
We're not addressing the real issue.
And so my question comes: if we're going to make it about beds, when does our morality become? When does it become immoral to judge? Is actually the real question.
Well, where's the pragmatism in that? Because is it cheaper to build a hospital and then fully stock it and then fully employ it, or is it cheaper to buy
a base?
Or is it cheaper to buy 2 million vaccines?
No, I'm saying our country throughout time has shown us what it's prioritizing. And I'm not saying, oh, the solution should have been literally, oh, just build hospitals overnight. I'm saying I find it weird that we have so many military bases, right? But we have this pandemic going on, like we've never planned on anything ever happening. So we never thought of having enough hospitals and hospital beds to be able to take care of a large scale anything happening. So I'm saying we've already seen the government handle this wrong. We've already seen it get out of the government's hands, supposedly. So why not start? Okay, guys, during his speech, during his mandate, we're working on this plan to incorporate this or add this to hospitals or build local facilities, even if it's a COVID facility. If you think this is going to be something that's going to be here for a while, you build COVID facilities and those patients can just go to those facilities to alleviate the hospitals. But you start something. There was no mention of actual, everything was just put back on the unvaccinated. So now you're putting.
Yes, it was, though, because he started up with the discussion saying many of us are frustrated with 80 million Americans who aren't vaccinated. Like, he's clearly making a me versus youth dynamic.
Well, he did do that. Yeah, he actually did take that tone. But he did harp on the unvaccinated, like, because he says, like, we're setting up for people who want to get vaccinated, so it's free. Go, and there's all these routes to go get it. For everybody that wants a booster that's already been vaccinated, we're working on that too. And then he says for the people that don't want to be, we're working on these treatments to try to get you to still survive the virus as much as possible. And then the last point he made was about children and getting them vaccinated should their parents choose to.
And then that's going to be a big thing for me. I'm not going to lie to you. That's going to be a really big thing for me. But I don't have to wait. I don't have to rush to that decision right now because apparently you have to wait till they're 12.
Since I'm being the dramatic extremist here, then the route he's going, it might be a possibility.
Oh, yeah.
If you're goes to school, like Doc's trying to say, you get the meningitis vaccine.
Goes to school.
If your child goes to school,
they might actually make that. Like they probably will just stack it onto the booster shots that
come on, now you're affecting the parent's decisions in their how their child grows
100%.
up, navigates life. Like it's a slippery slope. And I want to harp again on the fact that like Biden in the entire speech made a me versus you dynamic. Like I said, he started the conversation saying many of us are frustrated with the unvaccinated. Then he says we're going to protect the vaccinated from the unvaccinated workers. Then we're going to continue to protect the unvaccinated.
How about you apply?
Understand your anger.
What happens when we apply so the frustration of the people in the ICU, right? Technically speaking, the argument should be you should be yelling at the people in the ICU that are in the beds, because you do have a large portion of people who took their health a lot more seriously when this started happening, and people who don't want to get vaccinated but have been working their ass off, taking their vitamins, doing all these things that, immunity boosters, whatever it is, that they feel safe with, even holistic ways that they feel safe with in order to be prepared in case something like that does happen. Because technically speaking, the people having the conversation aren't the people in the ICU. So you can't be mad at somebody who's made the decision.
It's not a doctor making this decision. Like Biden,
So
if you want to say Dr. Fauci, it's already been revealed.
You know what's crazy?
Fauci likes to lie a little bit.
Jordan Peterson actually said this. He said, we greet each other we immediately gauge the potential. And so when we talk to each other, it's if we don't see that potential being reached, that's when we become critical. And so it's the what if instead of the acceptance of what's in front of you. And so now it's the what if I get sick and end up in the ICU that you're placing on me in the conversation. But what if I don't? You get what I'm saying?
No, I completely get what
And so like just that level of when you're having a conversation, there are a lot of things that are assumed in the conversation before you reach your point. And so my problem is,
or even an agreement.
But my problem is the assumptions actually haven't been properly checked. Like the assumption of the reason why the person hasn't got vaccinated, the assumption of the value of the vaccine, the person of being in the bed that's not unvaccinated versus a person who is in there for another unethical reason. It's just there's a million check marks that we could actually really go into and look at, and then it would change every situation.
You're just trying to say this conversation is too nuanced. We're not being nuanced
about it.
And
we're not. And so my problem is I hate when anything is simplified. And so I hate simplifying the unvaccinated to just that, because there are people being treated that are unvaccinated. They're being treated wrongly, or people are being mean to people who are unvaccinated. And that's not even in the hospital. I mean, if somebody knows you're unvaccinated, or if they hear it you're looked at as different. You're seen as different. Even in the workplace, you're seen as different. You're treated differently.
The other.
And so now we're not just talking about the bed. And so that's why I try to keep the conversation on the bed, but we're not really just talking about the bed now, because does that mean if I'm not taking up a bed right now, I'm minding my business in the grocery store, or I'm at work, do I need to be treated negatively because what if? And that's where it becomes immoral to judge, in my opinion. I understand somebody has to make these decisions and da-da-da-da-da, but I always say I come to an impasse when you start the pressure. I should still be able to be comfortable enough to say that and do that and live a healthy lifestyle and do whatever it is. I haven't been in an ICU, so why should I be treated like somebody? You know what I'm saying? There's so much things going on, so I just don't feel like that conversation is fair.
Well, I think
the way he had it.
Honestly, I think the stages of how we're going with it is we're gonna move from frustration to eventually apathy, which is that point where here's a 60-year-old woman who hasn't been vaccinated who's dying of COVID, and everyone's just gonna be like, okay, whatever, cool. Next.
We have that feeling about a lot of things though. Why are we harping on this one instant? What about people who die from heart attacks, from suicide, from car accidents? Are we I'm not trying to take away from it at all. Those things are tragic, but are we going to keep the same energy for those things also?
And I ain't gonna lie to you, man. They talking about beds. It's a million bitches getting BBLs every day.
My last point that I want to talk about also
for the suicide thing, though, like we are taking that more seriously now. Like mental health is on the up and up in the States, which I think is amazing. So we are taking that a little bit more seriously. You know, I think there's a little bit of a misdirection with the heart thing, given the whole like big is healthy. I think that the heart attack stuff needs to be a different direction. But yeah, I actually think like I know several people that work in these wards and they're just as frustrated with the people because they mostly are just like, oh, they're all overweight, they're all unvaccinated, they're all older. Most people who are young that are unvaccinated, they don't have to really worry about much. Like they have a really high survival rate, especially if they don't have any prior issues. But for some people, like they can't do anything. Like they just have to see if they make it out or not. And the wait time while other people are still living their lives is becoming again the issue. And so yeah.
So what I'm hearing is you're mad at fat people.
My only last point I want to bring to the conversation, we've been talking about this for 40 minutes now, is that 63% of the U.S. has been vaccinated with one dose, and then 53 with both. So let's just go with the one that's double dose. I don't know if one's less effective or if two's more. I don't know, but at the very least, half of the population has been vaccinated, and then we're seeing right now that it's increasing weekly by 0.7%. So people are still getting vaccinated. So what's the goal here? Already half is vaccinated. We want what? 70, 60%, 70%, 80%, 90%, 100%. When do we stop? Like, that's pretty good numbers to me. Like 50%.
You can get a little vaccinated?
You got to go for 2 doses. So if you go to get the first vaccine,
that's a little vaccinated.
Second one, like you're a little vaccinated.
I might get a little vaccinated then, and that's it.
The reason you have to do 2 because it's the same thing. They put it in twice.
It's a booster argument because of the efficacy of it, or whatever the word is. I said wrong.
Yeah, but see, would I be dumb to wait on them to have one that doesn't need a booster?
I mean, you could try going for the Johnson & Johnson, which is supposed to only take 1, but it's not as potent. It's the one with the most
They gave everybody
issues.
cancer with baby powder. I'm good.
And even they're going to require a booster, I think, eventually. The boosters are really to combat the strains because the flu does the exact same thing.
Oh my God. Go for it.
Honestly, I think it's going to turn into a thing where like it's just constantly changing like from one to the next, and you're just having to deal with it.
I mean, that's no fun. I didn't even get my flu shot this year.
All right.
I think they skipped it.
We've been talking about this for over 40 minutes, so let's switch up. Let's react to some.
Oh, so you're not going to bring that point up?
I just continue the conversation. It just goes to pretty much what you said. It goes to people having bad histories with vaccines, pharmaceutical companies as a whole. And even though Pfizer did get the FDA approved, like there have been, 2009 had to pay a $2.3 billion lawsuit for fraudulent marketing. Like,
also, question: I've worked in the healthcare industry before.
Suddenly, we trust pharmaceutical companies.
Doctors are 100% lying about the amount of vaccinations that they're giving, because I'm sure they are paid per. Do with that what you want. I know how medical insurance is actually billed. And, oh, man, there's a lot of fraud. The numbers might not even be as high as they are.
You made it to the end. Really appreciate it. Thanks for watching Fake Deep Thinking. If you like the show, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and to share. We really appreciate everything and appreciate you. So take it easy. Peace.
Have a good day.